Hi, I'm Dr. Samara Chapman. So, welcome back. Welcome back. This episode, I'd like to talk to you about stress hormones, and health, and how stress affects your hormonal balance, causing an imbalance, and that ultimately affects your health. So, stress hormones and health is a huge topic. I do multiple webinars and have done them for years just talking about that topic because stress is a major problem that we all have, but I think we're seeing more and more and more of that now than ever. I mean, this is such a very stressful time. So, one of the things that I'd like to talk about is that when I'm talking about stress hormones and health, we're going to talk about stress and the different areas in your body, and how stress affects it, how stress affects your health, specifically what it does, how it does it, and that sort of impact that it has on you. And then we'll talk about what we do to address some of those issues and some of the things that you can do, even starting right away, to help lower your stress levels, because it's stress that ultimately can lead someone to their death. And it's a very important topic, so I want to share all the information that I can with you in this short period of time. So let's talk about stress. What is stress? What is it? Stress is an abnormal response to a situation that your body feels is not natural. So it's a heightened or abnormal response, whatever that response may be, and every organ has its own response. But it's an abnormal response or an unhealthy response to a circumstance or a situation that your body deems is not healthy or normal. So that can come in so many different packages, right? I mean, we can have emotional stress. We can have stress from work life, from home life, from road rage, from so many different aspects that we feel, and we can feel that emotional stress. And when we feel the emotional stress, it has an overwhelming impact on our body. And so what happens? Our heart rate speeds up many times. Our blood pressure goes up. We can get muscle spasms. We can get headaches. But one of the areas that we really focus on in functional medicine is how stress affects our gut health. What does stress do to our intestinal health? And when I say gut, I'm referring to the gastrointestinal system that literally starts with your mouth and ends with your rectum. But more importantly, that in those intestines, because your intestines are so super sensitive, very sensitive to stress. And many times you don't even know it unless a stressful event occurs and you get a stomach ache or rumbling in your stomach and you have to rush to the bathroom. Then you can connect the dots and see that, oh my God, I was so stressed, I had to run to the bathroom. Well, let me explain to you how and why that happens. When we have a stressful event, whether it's emotional stress or a hidden stressor that we're not even aware is stressing our body, but it does, our gut health is one of the first areas that's impacted, and it causes inflammation. It causes inflammation in the gut wall. Our intestinal wall is so very delicate. Do you know it is one cell layer that makes up that intestinal wall? Yes, indeed. And so when it becomes stressed, it's so delicate that it becomes swollen, inflamed. Usually you don't even feel it. Sometimes you can though. And how do you feel that? Well, it may hurt, or you may have to go to the bathroom, or there may be gurgling or burping or belching or gas or something like that. But generally, when it affects our gut, it causes inflammation in that delicate gut wall. And from there, the inflammation leads to other problems. The inflammation can lead to leaky gut syndrome. The inflammation can lead to constipation. because it interferes with the natural rhythmic movement of our gut wall that allows us to have normal, timely bowel movements. The inflammation can cause diarrhea. I mean, just rampant diarrhea to the point that this is something then you're constantly in the bathroom 2 and 3 times a day or more, or maybe it's uncontrollable. But whatever happens, it's because that gut wall became upset. And when you have chronic stress affecting your gut and you have chronic inflammation in the intestinal wall, it can lead to diseases. It can increase your chances of having diverticular disease or even polyps and different things because the gut wall just isn't healthy. So you, especially if you have the genetics for those things, or if your lifestyle promotes those kind of abnormalities to develop in your gut, stress just helps it along. Just helps it along. And so we have to be very, very aware of what is stressful in our lives and what are some of the hidden stressors and what are the stressors that we're aware of. Because if we don't, we will have chronic gut health issues. Okay. So that's just one of the areas. Our intestines, our gut gets affected. What's one of the other areas that's affected? Do you know that stress can cause diabetes? Yes, stress can absolutely cause diabetes because when your body feels stress, whether it's emotional stress or, like I said, some of the stressors that are hidden, and I think I'll talk about those in a couple minutes, but though that stress in and of itself causes your liver to produce more sugar, so stress triggers increased sugar production, glucose. That glucose or sugar now is in your bloodstream. And now, as a result of that, you've got too much sugar in the bloodstream, way too much sugar. Your body responds by producing more insulin so that it can hopefully lower the amount of sugar that's floating around in your bloodstream. But after a while, that even doesn't work as well because you eventually become insulin resistant. And as a result of that, it goes from insulin resistance. Actually, let me back it up. It goes from stress to insulin resistance to pre-diabetes and then diabetes. Almost no one was diabetic without being insulin resistant for first and could have been insulin resistant for years and didn't know it. So let me tell you how this person may figure this out. Other than, usually it's during their regular doctor's visit and they check their blood levels during a routine exam and they find that their hemoglobin A1C or one of the blood values is elevated or their sugar values are absolutely elevated. And they're told, oh, you're pre-diabetic or you are diabetic. And you sit there scratching your head saying, what in the heck? How in the world did that happen? How in the world did I become diabetic when, one, it doesn't even run in my family, and two, I try my best to eat a balanced, healthy diet. And all of a sudden now I'm pre-diabetic or diabetic? No way. Yes, yes. That is how that happens. And being a physician practicing medicine for over 27 years, board certified in family medicine and a functional medicine specialist, I can tell you time and time and time again, when I have diagnosed someone with prediabetes or diabetes and they hadn't a clue that anything was going on or that anything was wrong. And that's how it happens. So yes, stress can lead to diabetes. So what else? What else? Let me back up and talk about these hidden stressors. In fact, I'm gonna save that for the next segment, right? So I want you to make sure you listen through to the very next segment because there are such things as hidden stressors on the body. And those stressors are as bad for your body as the emotional stress that you're aware of. Can you get over that? the emotional stress you feel and the effect that that has on your body could actually be causing, can also those same sorts of effects on your body from emotional stress can also be caused by stressors that you are not even aware of. You don't even know it's happening. Don't even know it's happening. So, yes, I'll talk about that in the next segment. But to recap quickly, diabetes can come from stress. And so, here's the other thing about that: someone that is newly diagnosed with diabetes and they say to themselves, well, it runs in my family. Okay, I knew it would probably happen to me because, my mother is diabetic. My dad's diabetic. My sister's diabetic. My grandparent was diabetic. Somebody was diabetic. So I knew I was going to get it. No, that is not necessarily the case. Do you know 95% of your of the DNA in your body, only 5% of that, only 5% of your genetics determines whether or not you're going to get a disease. The other 95% is based on lifestyle. I'm going to say that again. If you have the genetics for a condition, the most recent research has shown that only 5% of the fact that you have that gene is responsible for you developing that condition most of the time. Of course, there's some exceptions, of course, but a majority of the time, 5% of your genetics determines if you're going to get a disease or not. The other 95% is lifestyle. The other 95% is lifestyle. 5% is your genetics, 95% is lifestyle. So, do you have control of your health? Absolutely. So, if you get diagnosed with a condition that runs in your family, it wasn't because you necessarily were just going to get it. It wasn't just fate. It was 95% of your lifestyle most likely brought that on. So, for someone who's newly diagnosed with diabetes and it runs in their family, it's not because it ran in your family that it 100% determined that you were going to get it. 5%, yes. The other 95% is how you live your life. The other thing I want to say about people that have been diagnosed with diabetes is that many times you are following your doctor's recommendations. You are doing exactly what they tell you to do. You are absolutely eating as well as you know to eat, and you're exercising and you're doing the things that you should or that you've been told you should. But yet and still, you go back to the doctor's office, and what does he do or she have to do? Raise your medication levels, raise your dose. Why? Because your sugars still aren't controlled. And you're like, wait a minute, what the heck else do I do? The reason your sugars are not quite controlled is simply because there are other factors controlling your blood sugar level in your blood other than the way you eat and your exercise. But for those of you who can't figure out how to control their blood sugar, no matter what you do, it doesn't work. Well, in the last segment, I was talking about how your blood sugars can sometimes be so difficult to control when you have chronic stress. And for those of you that have diabetes, or a pre-diabetic, and you're trying to figure out why in the world I can't get my sugar under control, or if you have a loved one that's in that same predicament and you're wondering why you can't get your sugars under control, and you're doing everything that your doctor tells you to do, you're following the guidelines, the dietary guidelines, you're exercising. I mean, you really think you're doing a pretty good job, but yet you go into the doctor's office, you get another set of follow-up lab tests, and you find that your A1C, your hemoglobin A1C, still hasn't budged very much, or your fasting blood sugars are still too high. And the doctor says, well, looks like I'm going to have to raise your medicine. Looks like we're going to have to add another pill, or it looks like you're going to have to go on insulin. We can't seem to get these sugars under control. Well, one of the factors One of the factors may very well be the fact that you have multiple stressors that are affecting your ability to control your blood sugar. Multiple stressors. So, in other words, when the fact that you are watching your diet and exercising may only be a tiny part. It's only a tiny part of you controlling your sugars. And that is the part that we don't discuss with our patients enough. It's not just about diet and exercise and meditating, that helps. It's other factors as well. And when we don't discuss those with our patients, they can become very frustrated because many times, no matter what they do, they still have to have insulin, or more medication, or raise the dose. Something's just not right, and it's very frustrating. So how does that happen, right? If you understand that stressors, multiple types of stressors, ultimately can affect your blood sugar levels, and none of these, let's take the option, or the fact of eating certain foods out of the equation here, because we know if you eat improperly, that's going to be a problem. So I'm not talking about you eating cakes and pies and carbs all day. That's going to raise your blood sugar. I'm talking about the things that you are not aware of that will also raise your blood sugar. And it's those factors that are never addressed and never looked into and never discussed. And that's why many times, not absolutely, but many times, that's why no matter what you think you're doing right, it's never enough. Or no matter what, you're on insulin, or you're told you're going to stay on insulin the rest of your life. Well, I'm here to tell you that does not necessarily have to be the truth. Not at all. So what are some of those hidden stressors that I alluded to? We know about emotional stress. Emotional stress we are aware of, whether it's home stress, work stress, road rage stress, whatever the stress, watching the news stress, right? No matter what it is, it's a stressor. It's emotional. We can feel it. For those of us that have depression or anxiety, we can feel it, right? Those are stressors. Those are not the hidden ones. Those are the ones you're aware of. The hidden ones are just as much of a problem for you, maybe even more, because you're not doing anything to address it. And what are some of those? Staring at a computer screen for too many hours in a day. Yes, staring at a computer screen for too many hours in a day. That causes a reaction in the retina, which ultimately stresses the body. Staring at a computer screen. How many of you work from home and you're on the computer all day, or are at work and you're on the computer all day? Not much you can really change about that, right? Because you have to make a living, but you can get those filter glasses. That'll help. Absolutely, that'll help. So staring at a computer screen for too many hours in a day, children that are on their electronics, those, playing the games, always on social media, constantly something in their hand, in their face, the blue light, all of that, very stressful for the body. Ultimately, yes, will raise your sugar levels. What's another one? Foods that you're sensitive to. I spent a lot of time on food sensitivities and on one of the previous segments. Foods that you're sensitive to stress the body directly by stressing the gut wall. So if you're sensitive to a particular food, and you don't, and you know what? It doesn't just have to be a fruit, a vegetable, a protein like, chicken, fish, meat, shellfish. It doesn't have to just be that. It could be spices. It could be herbs. It could be seasonings, of course. It could be food additives, food colors, dyes. It could be any one of those things. It could be black pepper. It could be any one of those things. And when you're sensitive to a certain substance that you put in your mouth, it ultimately produces a protein that stresses the gut wall, causing your gut to activate the immune system that works primarily in your intestines. And the immune system now begins to attack the gut wall. I'm going to say that again. Foods that you're sensitive to, substances that you're sensitive to, you put it in your mouth, you chew it, you eat it, you swallow it. It goes into your stomach. From there, it goes into the small bowel. It causes a reaction there, usually producing a protein that your gut just doesn't like. Doesn't like it. And it stimulates the immune system to attack your intestinal walls. Yes. And it's that reaction that eventually leads to leaky gut syndrome and a whole bunch of other problems in your gut. And those things can lead to fatigue and brain fog and tiredness and rashes that you can't explain, migraine, headaches, chronic diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, um, inflammation in your joints, even autoimmune conditions can be related to this. So foods that you're sensitive to could be your favorite food. It could be something that you are, you think is super healthy, like lettuce, spinach, carrots, onion, fruit, apples, oranges, blueberries, melons, any fruit, any vegetable, any meat, like chicken, turkey, beef, duck, venison, fish, shellfish. How about black pepper, garlic, vanilla, anything? I just tested a few ladies this month, and we found that 3 of them were sensitive to one of the herbs, the herb turmeric. Now, I want to be very clear. Turmeric is an excellent herb. And yes, it helps tremendously with inflammation. It is a good one. Don't get me wrong. But if you're sensitive to it, it's actually causing the problem that you're trying to prevent. And these 3 ladies tested sensitive to turmeric. So when you have a food sensitivity, it could absolutely be causing problems for you. Okay? Absolutely be causing issues for you, and absolutely be causing you to have problems with your health. And that, as a result of that, you are going to have problems. So it's so very, very important, so very important that you understand what your food sensitivities are. Because, again, foods that you're sensitive to will absolutely cause problems. And the sensitivity reaction is delayed. It's not like an allergy. Food sensitivities are different from food allergies. Allergies, you eat it, you usually know in a short period of time if it's going to be a problem for you. But a sensitivity is something that the reaction is delayed. It may be 2 or 3 days, it may be a week, it may be 2 weeks before the sensitivity reaction actually occurs. And when that happens, you have problems. When that happens, you are going to have issues with other parts and other things that you're dealing with. So, food sensitivities are very, 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 very important to understand, because the reaction is delayed. So, it's hard to find out what caused it. You could be eating apples and you're sensitive to apples, and a week later, your joint pain flares up, or you have trouble sleeping, or 3 days later, you have, a lot of fatigue or brain fog, and you cannot figure out why, and you'll never connect it to that healthy food. Or what if your favorite vegetable was celery, and you're putting celery in your smoothies every single day? What if you're sensitive to it? So that's a hidden stressor, and it can cause multiple problems in your body. Okay. Whatever it is. And everyone's food sensitivity test results, which I do with a blood test, are different. No two are the same. Okay. So, what's another hidden stressor? Do you know the lack of exercise or the wrong type of exercise could actually be stressing your body? How about you soccer moms that are ripping and running and going, constantly on the go? That's a stressor. Sitting in front of the TV all the time, no exercise. That stresses your body, being a couch potato. Yes, that's a stressor. Did you know that medications can sometimes be a stressor, especially if you're having side effects that you're not quite aware of, or you were given a pill for the side effect of another pill? Those are stressors. That's stressing your body. Toxins, toxicity in the environment, in the water, the food, the air. Toxins, the pesticides and preservatives on your food, the hair care products, the skin care products, the cleaning products. All of them may have trace amounts of toxin. And those toxins or poisons are accumulated in your body. And when they accumulate, and you are totally unaware, but when they accumulate, I should say, let me just correct that. You're totally unaware until something goes wrong, like the development of cancer or the development of some tumors or something goes wrong. But here's what's kind of tricky, because you could have an overburden of toxins in your system, and the only symptom you have is just, I don't feel well. And you go to the doctor, you get tested, you get checked out, all your tests come back normal, and they say, nope, you're fine. See ya. You're good. And the bottom line is that you have a buildup of toxins. Sometimes a toxic buildup can give you, can just, the only symptom is fatigue, just tired all the time. Sometimes it could be anything. Can't sleep, can't think, brain fog, fatigue, inflamed. You just feel the inflammation in your body all the time, and I have a lot of inflammation is what you say to yourself. That could be a sign of toxins. So in the next segment, I'm going to talk a little bit more about toxin and toxicity buildup, simply because that also affects your ability to lose weight. Yes. So in the last segment, I was beginning to talk about toxins and the toxic buildup and what the symptoms and the signs can be from that, because that is another hidden stressor. Can you imagine how much of that is just in our general environment? How much of that we see, we breathe, we touch, we eat, we use every day, and we don't even know it. It's everywhere. I mean, it's meaning toxins, and it's always a tiny, tiny, tiny parts per million or parts per billion, whatever the acceptable amount is. But you know what happens? Those all those years of us being exposed to various toxins every waking day of our life and sleeping, it builds up. Our body eliminates it. The liver is the major detoxing organ that we have, and it does a darn good job eliminating as much of the toxic buildup as it can. But there's always some left. And over the years, from the moment we're born, we are accumulating tiny, tiny, tiny parts per million, parts per billion of toxic substances, whether it's on the food, in the air, in the makeup, the cleaning products, hair care products. Even some of our medication may have that effect on us, especially the chemotherapeutic agents, which you have to do that, right? I mean, that is a life or death decision. So some of these things are not avoidable. I'm not saying you can clear your environment of all of them. That's just not going to happen in our lifetime. But what I am saying is be aware. Be aware so that you can reduce as much of it as you can, because that's very important. I test my patients to find out what their toxic burden is. What is the level of burden on their body from the toxic buildup that they have? And when I do that, I'm able to share with them the importance of detoxing, or, where their body stands. And sometimes it's alarming, absolutely alarming, for them to see that they have way, way, way too much toxic buildup in their body than what they should. So how do toxins do that? Well, the human body is an amazing thing. And what it does is it stores toxins in our adipose tissue. Adipose is fatty tissue, fat. Our bodies store the toxins that it can't get rid of. It tries to get rid of all of it, but there's always something left. And those parts that they can't get rid of get stored in our fatty tissue, stored in our adipose tissue, away from the major organs. So what is the body doing? Why does it store it away from the major organs? To protect our organs, to save us, to keep us alive. It's for survival. You don't want toxins to be stored in your heart, do you? Or your kidneys, or your liver, or your lungs, or your brain? Do you want that to be one of the major places that toxins are stored? Do you think you'd be able to live very long like that? No. So what the body does is it says, okay, I'm going to do everything possible for you to survive. So I'm going to store your toxic buildup in your fatty tissue. And we're going to try to keep it there as best we can, away from the major organs. So when you have an overabundance of all of that, way too much burden on your body, it becomes a stressor. It's a stressor from the beginning, but it really begins to stress your body. And when it does that, your body will overproduce sugar and you will become insulin resistant and you will gain weight. Yes, indeed. All of these stressors I'm going to talk about in the next segment, how they tend to lead toward weight gain, how they tend to lead toward so many different things, because toxins and stress will kill you. So if you have a toxic buildup, you could have headaches and not know why. You could have inflammation in your heart and not know why. You could have inflammation in your kidneys and start having kidney failure and not know why. You could have diseases that show up in your colon and not know why. Tumors, cancer, your lungs, inflammation there, asthma, emphysema, bronchitis, chronic bronchitis, anything. These are issues from stressors, unnatural things that have affected your body and are causing disease. So when your body has an overabundance of stress, yes, that's another issue. That's something that can lead to all sorts of problems, conditions, diseases, and it comes from so many different hidden stressors that you're not even aware of. So you've got the ones you're aware of, like, right? That would be emotional stress. You can feel that. And before I educated you today, you probably didn't know you had those other stressors that you were not aware of. And those are as damaging to your body and your health as the emotional stress that you can feel, because they are all working against you at the same time to cause a problem. So people who have an overabundance of stress, or have, our bodies are made to handle some stress. Some stress is normal. It's natural. What I'm referring to is an overabundance of it. And when it becomes overwhelmed, a person becomes depressed and anxious. They may have headaches. They may have migraines. They may have heartburn. They may have diarrhea, constipation, gas, symptoms that are really signs and symptoms of health problems that they can't figure out what's going on. A person may have heart condition and a heart attack. They may get an asthma attack or inflammation from the stressor causing an asthma attack. They may have, issues with their vision, hearing, energy, no energy, sleep problems, brain fog, erectile dysfunction, low libido, sexual dysfunction. The list it goes on and on and on with regard to what it could actually cause. And one of the big factors is a weakened immune system. What happens? What happens to your immune system when you're under chronic stress? It eventually weakens. And it weakens, and then it causes you to have more infections. You're more prone to colds. You're more prone to sicknesses and illnesses. And you succumb to viruses. You just become ill, and you get one cold, and then it's the next cold, and then it's the next cold, and or a virus or the flu or something, or you're more susceptible to COVID-19. Whatever it is, your immune system just isn't healthy anymore, and it can't function like it should, and it makes you prone to diseases and illnesses and sicknesses. So it's so important to understand that that our stress levels, whether we're aware of what the stress is or we're not, it ultimately affects our bodies. It affects us in a very, very, very negative way. And if we don't get a handle on it, it will kill us. It will absolutely take us to an early grave. So my whole lesson for you today is to help you understand that if you are dealing with stressors, if you are dealing with issues that are causing you to feel stress, think about the hidden stressors. Think about the foods that you're sensitive to. Think about how often you're staring at a computer screen. Think about the stressors in your environment from toxins and toxicities. How about if you're being too much of a couch potato, or you know that your physical activity during the week is really, really overwhelming, and you know you don't get enough rest? Here's another one, not sleeping well. So there's so many different stressors because a lack of sleep, that's another one. That's a huge one. Huge. And the lack of sleep typically comes from the fact that your circadian rhythm, which is controlled by your stress hormone cortisol, is all imbalanced. It's all over the place. It's not stable. And so your sleep patterns are not stable. You can't fall asleep, or you fall asleep, but you can't get back to sleep. Or when you do sleep, it's not a restful sleep. So you're sleeping, but you're not really getting that good REM sleep. Or you just don't get very much sleep at all. How about the person that wakes up tired, seems to be tired all day, but when it's time to go to sleep, they can't fall asleep? Or the person that wakes up with all the energy that they should have, but in the middle of the day, they tank. They're so tired. They don't know what to do. They have to have 2 and 3 cups of coffee just to keep going, all of that. Or how about that person? And then when it's time to go to sleep, they may fall asleep, but they wake up and can't get back to sleep. So the pattern could be anything. It could be a little bit of this one and a little bit of that one. It could switch up and change. But the bottom line is you don't get enough sleep, or the sleep you get is not restful. That causes high blood pressure. That causes people to get headaches and migraine headaches. It can cause fatigue. It can cause brain fog. And it can lead to gut health issues. Yes, gut health issues can come from not getting enough sleep because it is a stressor, whether you realize it or not, especially for you ladies who are taking care of everyone in the household except yourself. Let me talk to you for a minute. You're taking care of everybody but yourself. You have to take care of everybody, but you have to take care of yourself as well. I don't know how many ladies come see me and they are so exhausted because they're taking care of everyone except themselves. And if you don't take care of yourself, they're not going to be taken care of either. What are some of the things you can do to address the obvious stressors as well as the hidden stressors that you have in your life, in your environment? Because you know what? We all have to live, we have to function, we want to enjoy life. And there are certain things that you can't really change completely, and you're not going to get rid of all the issues around you, but some of them may be more manageable, and some of those that you can eliminate. That's all this is about. I just want to educate you and help you be aware of what you should do. And I'm also going to share with you some natural herbs that can be used to help your body handle the stressors a lot better. So one of the things that so let's talk about some of the things that you can do to help your body de-stress. First, let's talk about emotional stress. And I really want you to understand that there's nothing wrong with seeking counseling or help or some talking with a professional if you feel like you're just overwhelmed with emotional stress. Everyone has some degree or at some time in their life where they feel a little overwhelmed. And no, I'm not saying that everyone has to always seek out help, but it certainly wouldn't hurt if you feel that way to talk to someone. Seek out mental health counseling or just someone that can help you sort through some of the emotional stressors that you're dealing with. And you may only need 3 or 4 sessions, or, a couple of sessions just to kind of help with maybe some coping mechanisms. So important. Nothing wrong with it. And I think more than ever right now in this country, we are so stressed that it wouldn't hurt for everyone at some time, in their life, as an adult especially, to seek out some help. So aside from that, meditation is amazing, and it takes time to meditate. Learn how. You're not going to just go into a corner and sit and just clear your brain for a whole 15 minutes the first, second, or even third time you try. It takes practice. I'm here to tell you. The very first time I started trying to meditate was 20 years ago. And it took me almost that long to finally get to the point where I felt like I was clearing my mind well enough to feel that it was helpful and beneficial for me. So don't give up on it. Don't think that, oh, I tried meditation. Man, I can't clear my mind long enough. That doesn't work for me. No, it takes practice. And the practice might take years. And you know what? It's okay. It's okay. And at some point, you're going to clear your mind for 1 minute, and then it'll be 2 minutes, and then it'll be 3 minutes, and then 15 minutes won't be as much of an effort for you as you thought. You just have to take that first step and try. Meditation is awesome. Sit somewhere in a quiet space, get comfortable, and just try to clear your mind. One of the techniques that you can also use is positive visualization. I think it's awesome. If you use a little positive visualization, just close your eyes and think about being someplace really relaxing and comfortable. If you want to imagine yourself in on a beach, or imagine yourself, in a incredible resort, sitting with, in a wonderful spa with just spa music going. Anything that relaxes you, it's okay. Walking through a field of flowers, that's a meditation. That's also really nice to do. Just or a thought, just positive visualization. It takes you to another place, and it's healthy for you, and it gives you a chance to at least focus your mind on something else, especially if you can't just clear your thoughts and have no thoughts going on in your head. It's very difficult to do that. So I suggest, if you do it, try, keep working at that, right? But also try positive visualization. And when I say positive, I mean it should be the best type of way you could visualize yourself that you can think of. Maybe it's a dream you have for what you want in life, and you want to visualize yourself in the midst of that. So healthy. So that's another good thing you can do. Some people like to grab a book and sit on this and just sit and read a book, and it makes them very comfortable that way. Some people like to sit with a cocktail. There's nothing wrong with that. Sit someplace quiet. If you've got a beautiful room, a quiet space, your bedroom, the bathtub, right? Soaking in the bathtub. If you've got a beautiful backyard and you like to sit, or a patio where it's quiet and you can just enjoy nature with a cocktail, red wine, dry red wine is very medicinal. It has very, very strong cardiac health implications. It's good for your heart. Dry red wine. So that's something you can do, okay? So sitting someplace quiet, but you want to be quiet. You want to do something. So I just have a couple minutes left. And what I want to do is share with you a couple of herbs. Passionflower, excellent for stress. Chamomile tea, excellent for stress. Basil, holy basil, that is so excellent for stress. It helps bring down the stress levels. It helps bring down the cortisol levels. It helps with diabetes and headache, even fever and upset stomach. It is so important. Basil, wonderful for stress. So these three things are so good. Passion flower, what does it do? It helps reduce nervousness. It helps with insomnia. It helps with relaxation. Chamomile. Chamomile is an antioxidant to help with oxidation and oxidative stress. And then basil. Again, basil helps with diabetes and so many other things. So these are three wonderful herbs that you can add just to help your body de-stress. So I hope this has been a very, very helpful segment. I'm going to show you my book. This book is called From Hopeless to Healing When Traditional Medicine Fails. You can get it on Amazon. And I'm so glad you listened to this segment. I'll see you next time.